So compassion is the recognition of the suffering of another with a motivational desire to alleviate that suffering. So it is actually an action word. It requires you to do something. Empathy, though, is the recognition of another's distress, but it doesn't necessarily require that you intervene or alleviate that suffering.
Love feels best.
Some people, especially when we study how the brain reacts in the face of someone suffering, actually the areas in the brain associated with pain and distress are activated because you cannot actually do anything if you're simply being empathetic, versus compassion then allows you to dissipate that distress. And in this breathing exercise, this allowed me to actually relax and to attend and to be present. Because you see, for most people, what happens, even today, is that about 78% of the time you are either ruminating about the past and what might have been, could have been, should have been, or thinking about a future of which you have no control, but you're not really present. To connect with others, to develop relationships with others, requires you to be here and now and to be present. And I had no understanding of this. He asked me if I had negative thoughts going on in my head. And I had never thought about it before. But when I reflected, I realized that I was always telling myself that I wasn't good enough, wasn't smart enough, and that I can't do this or I can't do that. And I believe that was truth. That voice is not me, and it's not truth. But what that voice does do is it results in you limiting your worldview by being hypercritical, and it limits your ability to understand the possibilities that exist for yourself. And so I did not realize it at the time, but she actually made me realize that I could change the narrative or turn down the volume and not be distracted by those types of voices or thoughts. Once I was able to deal with that, it changed several things. And I realized that narrative was limiting my ability to accomplish. Because ultimately, I realized that within each of us, we have this extraordinary power to change ourselves and ultimately to change the world. But if we don't recognize it, nothing is possible. When you are hypercritical of yourself, it makes you look at the world through a hypercritical lens, so that you become very judgmental of others. And of course, when you're judgmental of others, it limits your ability to connect with others. So once I was kind to myself, then it allowed me to see others through a much more thoughtful, kind, and compassionate lens. Many of my actions had nothing to do with what was going on at that moment. And what I realized was that I carried a certain amount of frustration or insecurity or shame that was affecting my ability to interact with others. Once I recognized this, everything changed. Because you see, humans have this unique ability to intuit the emotional states of others. Well, if you're carrying anger and hostility around, those around you intuit those emotions and have a response to that. They become either defensive, they pull away, they don't want to be around you. So once I changed how I saw the world changed how it saw me. And the other thing that happened is, as an example, was I used to have a lot of anger and frustration at my parents. And I recognized that it was not their fault, that they did not have the tools to deal with their own pain. And as a result, their actions were the only tools they had to decrease the pain that they carried. And that was actually profound, because once I no longer carried this anger and hostility towards others or how I saw the world, it actually unleashed the ability within myself to accomplish, to attend, to be present. It's interesting that with these types of practices, extraordinary things occur physiologically. As an example, when you're able to switch from engagement of your sympathetic nervous system, which, as I mentioned, was associated with your flight or fight or freeze mechanism, to engagement of your parasympathetic nervous system, which is what we call the rest and digest system,
Love feels best.
several things happen. One, if your sympathetic nervous system is engaged, your ability to process information is limited. Because what it does is it shuts down your executive control areas in your brain, which are associated with being able to make discerning decisions based on memory and prior experiences. The other thing that happens is that when your parasympathetic nervous system is engaged, you are much more open, you're much more thoughtful, because you see, you're looking through the world through a lens of generosity and kindness, one of non-judgment, and that opens up many possibilities to you. The other thing is that beyond the brain itself, it actually has a huge number of physiologic effects.
Son, say it with me. Conscience off.
Conscience off.
Dick what?
Dick on.
And everything's
Gonna be alright.